Today we've got a review for the girl-on-girl brawler Arcana Heart, as well as the top 4 most ridiculous gaming controversies.
Plus, are sex and violence in games to blame for America's problems? We've got the authors of Grand Theft Childhood, and their new book may just shock you. X-Play starts now. Hello and welcome to X-Play, home of clever catchphrases, like I'm Adam Sessler.
And I'm Morgan Webb. We're coming to you from the G4 studios in Los Angeles on Wednesday, April 16th.
Now later on, we've got one of X-Play's most requested segments ever, and Kristen Holt will come by with an Okami cheat. But first, Morgan's got all of the day's headlines in our gaming update.
The Metal Gear Online beta won't be playable here in the US until April 21st, but those of you who have a pre-order key can start downloading the beta onto your PS3's hard drive. Recently, a handful of gamers tried to get into the game's Japanese beta, despite the fact that they didn't actually live in Japan. Konami's ID Services is now deleting any false IDs and sending email notifications to those who are affected. Namco has announced the official release date for Soul Calibur 4. The game will hit retail shelves here in the US on July 29th. The game will also be sold as a premium pack that includes a comic book and a code to obtain exclusive content. But we all know the real reasons gamers are going to pick this one up have something to do with the unique weapon set and the game's exaggerated, call them female physics. Sure. Criterion Games has revealed that 3 new game modes will soon be added to Burnout Paradise. Gamers will soon notice a version 1.2 patch that has been codenamed Bogart. The patch you'll want to keep your eyes open for is the version 1.3 update, codenamed Cagney. Funny code names aside, the added gameplay modes will include multiplayer competitions called Online Stunt Run, Marked Man, and Online Road Rage. That's all for today's gaming update. Be sure to visit us on the web at g4tv.com/xplay to continue getting all of today's up-to-the-minute video game news. But now, let's go over to Adam, who is knee-deep in girl power.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Morgan. The sisters are doing it for themselves in the latest release from Atlas. It's an all-girl fighting title that's got more raw feminine power than a George O'Keeffe painting. Despite the lack of Annie Lennox and or Aretha Franklin, here's a review of Arcana Heart. At first look, you might think you know everything about Arcana Heart from a single fleeting glance. It's a PS2 game. It's a girl fighting game. It's a Japanese pop music game. It's a you feel like you've seen it before game. The fighting is the classic kind of thing we've been doing in arcades for almost 2 decades. It's you, your enemy, and a variety of combos you can use to rock her around the screen. But if you give it more than a once-over, you'll see that it's not just another Street Fighter Guilty Gear knockoff. Each fighter is an homage to different anime girl stereotypes. But while you have the obvious ones, Private Schoolgirl and Enchantrix, anyone? There are creative spins on each. For example, the creepily young Lolita type in a swimsuit plays the muscle character in the game, controlling this giant amorphic blob of water. Along with 11 characters, there are also 11 Arcana cards with different abilities to choose from. With over 100 different combinations, Arcana Heart has the kind of replayability you wouldn't expect in a 2D fighter. At $30, you're getting a creative little game you can play again and again. Arcana Heart uppercuts 4 moe stereotypes out of 5.
Generally speaking, dragons can be bad news, and dragons with multiple heads, even worse. Well, luckily for all you herpetophobiacs out there, Kristen Holt is here with an Okami cheat that will free you of your fear.
Thanks, Morgan. All right, Orochi's castle can be quite a pain for any sun goddess in the form of a wolf. But if you follow this cheat, you should be able to make it through unscathed. And I might even give you a treat. Who's a good girl? Hardcore Okami fans know that one of the trickiest parts is infiltrating the lair of evil demon Orochi, also known as the Moon Cave. So let us hear a cheat help you through it. Before you get to save your BFF and fight the big baddie himself,
you'll have to sneak inside. And the way you do that is by helping out this discombobulated chef prepare an appetizer for Orochi. You'll need to gather 4 unappetizing ingredients from different bad guys in the cave. The first can be found on this group. Use your wind power to blow out their fiery eyes, and killing them should be as easy as 1, 2, 3. Your reward for the effort is a delicious ogre liver. Yummy! Use a helpful elevator imp to reach your next objective, a group of ice mouths that are just begging to get what's coming to them. Burn them with any of these local heat sources, and in no time at all, you'll be the proud owner of these lips of ice. Can't wait to taste those. Keep heading onward, and you'll run into an intimidating pair, an ice mouth and a fire eye. The first thing you'll want to do is use the eye's flame to melt away the ice's cool exterior. Once he's dead, use Galestorm to extinguish its flame. With both of them out of the way, you can claim the third ingredient, an eyeball of fire. Head further inside the moon cave, and you'll encounter this group of pesky imps. The best way to kill these guys is to splash at their skulls. Once they're goners, grab the final ingredient, a black demon horn. Give the ingredients to the chef, and you can ride up with them to present the entree to Orochi. That'll give you your opportunity to slice and dice them up. Just remember who helped you cheat your way inside.
That's me, by the way. I helped you. Be sure to check g4tv.com/cheat for the latest tips and tricks. Right now, I'm going to send it back over to Adam.
Oh, why, thank you, Kristen. Now, if you want to hear what I really think about games and not in an on-duty kind of way, check out Cecil's Soapbox. You can watch me blow the roof off this mother. Exclusively at g4tv.com/soapbox every Wednesday. Now, this week, I talk about Resident Evil 5 and charges of racism. So, tune in, get online, and do the Facebooking. I don't know. We're going to be back.
Coming up on X-Play, are sex and violence in video games to blame for many of the issues with today's society? We log some FaceTime with the authors of the controversial new book, Grand Theft Childhood. Then, we run down our list of the 4 most ridiculous controversies to hit the world of gaming. Plus, one of our most requested segments ever in today's X-Play Classic. All that and more when we return.
Become a stick figure Spider-Man for free. Indie Games begins in 60 seconds. Welcome to Indie Games, a 60-second smidgen of online amusement. Take a little journey with me. Consider, if you will, the adventures of Spider-Man enacted on the painted walls of Alasco Cave. Well, that's exactly how I felt when I was playing Double Wires. It's a side-scrolling exercise in precision clicking. You'll need to navigate a 2D world of cantilevered ledges rendered in a refreshingly naive stick figure motif. Yeah, I'm dating an art history major. You can tell, right? Good, I'm glad you're impressed. Now, don't let the primitive aesthetic fool you. The gameplay is smooth, yet it's surprisingly difficult. You'll have a lot of fun with it, though. I'm out of here. In the meantime, check me out online at g4tv.com/indiegames for links to this and other great stuff. I'm Kevin Pereira. What do you want for nothing?
When you're Hendrick Motor.
A mountain.
Hey guys, is it really ever a good idea to split content up for different versions of games, such as only Vader in the PS3 version of Soul Calibur 4 and Yoda on the 360?
Welcome back to X-Play. Thanks for your question, Tim. People are doing this a lot more.
Yeah. I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of it. You know, you're actually thinking that I'm gonna go out and buy 2 copies of the same game?
No, I don't think they are. I think what's happening is that, you know, when maybe the press, the gaming journalists say, hey, what's the difference between the versions? Why should I, why should I buy one version? They have an answer.
Yes. They do. Of course, that makes it sound like it's our fault, and so we need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Of course, I think the one other thing is are they going to sell the other character, especially in Soul Calibur, as downloadable content in the future?
I think that they should.
I don't know. If I'm paying $60, give me everything. Meh. All right, for years now, video games have been an easy scapegoat for any shocking crime that involves youth and geeks. Because we all know that nothing violent ever happened before video games were invented. Now, where does this stereotype come from? Well, we're about to shed some light on the subject as we get some FaceTime. As video games push the envelope in terms of realism and mature subject matter, some groups think it's necessary to push back. Concerned parents, overzealous lawyers, and Bible-thumping politicians have kept the ESRB extremely busy with claims that games are destroying the youth. Is there a direct link between video games and adolescent behavioral problems? And what are today's teenagers really playing? Dr. Lawrence Kuttner and Cheryl Olson, writers of the research book Grand Theft Childhood, are here to share their findings. Joining us today are the directors and co-founders of the Harvard Medical School Center for Mental Health and Media and authors of the newly released book, Grand Theft Childhood, Dr. Lawrence Kuttner and Dr. Cheryl Olson. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again for this extensive research that you've done on a subject that's obviously very close to me and many of our viewers out there.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Our pleasure.
So I guess just sort of a quick summary of what has obviously been some rather exhaustive research. What is kind of the sense of the study that you did and the conclusions that you drew from it?
Well, we did a study that lasted several years. It was funded by the U.S. Department of Justice for about $1.5 million. And we wound up surveying and interviewing over 1,250 kids in multiple states and 500 of their parents. And a couple of things really are the top takeaways from that. One of them is that the big concern that you hear the politicians and the pundits argue that playing violent video games will somehow turn your child into a criminal or a violent person. There's absolutely no evidence for that. If you look at violent crime in the U.S. over the past 20 years among teenagers, it's gone down and gone down significantly. And if you look at video game play, it's gone up and gone up significantly. But there are some patterns of play that parents and teachers maybe they should take a little closer look at.
One of the big things we did in our research is try to figure out what's normal and what's not. Amazingly, that hadn't really been established before in the research literature.
Now, obviously, that brings up a good question, because even though the politicians like to make hay out of this matter, there are all these studies that they can cite that really try to show this, quick causality between violent games and violent behavior. Why do those studies exist, and why are they getting any credit at all?
There seems to be a core of experimental psychologists who've really grabbed the headlines on this topic. They tend to take college students, in Psych 101, and they pay them a little bit or give them some course credit, and they have them play a violent or a non-violent game for 15 or 20 minutes, and then they have them do something like blast an air horn or give a little shock to someone who they can't see in another room. And they try to say that aggression in the real world is the same as aggression in the lab, where they're blasting an air horn for a fraction of a second longer. And people who don't know about the research, they're not able to go back and look this stuff up and say, does this really make sense? Is this anything like aggression in the real world? And we don't think it is.
Well, there's another issue, which is short-term versus long-term. If you go to the local Cineplex and there's a Jackie Chan movie or a Jet Li movie, and you watch a bunch of teenagers come out of that, of course they're going to be sort of hitting each other and kicking, and they're excited. But that goes away very quickly. And so there's this leap of faith that if a child or a teenager or even a young adult is exposed to this and they have a short-term response, that means it's going to change their behavior. And we found actually quite the opposite. One of the surprising things we found, if you wanted to look at which kids are at greatest risk for getting into trouble, for being trouble with the school, for getting into fights, that sort of thing, we found that at two extremes for the boys, one extreme for the girls. For both the boys and girls, if you play almost exclusively M-rated or violent video games, play for more than 15 hours a week, then you're at greater risk for getting into trouble. Now, still, most of the kids who do that don't, but you are at statistically greater risk.
It's what we call a risk marker. It doesn't mean it's causing it.
But with the boys, what we found is those boys who did not play video games at all were also at significantly greater risk for getting into trouble.
They had more school problems and fights.
It seems that playing video games for boys is a marker of social competence. And that surprised us. And what was interesting, when you look at what happened almost a year ago at Virginia Tech, and you had Sung-Hui Cho, actually. And initially, all the pundits went on the air and they said, well, it's caused by violent video games. If you look at the actual report, video games are mentioned 3 times in that report. One, it says that when he was 9 years old, he used to play Sonic the Hedgehog. And he didn't play violent video games then. But the other times, it's his suite mates, the kids he shared a dorm room with, who said that he didn't play video games at all. And that struck them as really odd because everyone else did. And that fell right in line with our research findings, that the kids who don't play it at all are actually at greater risk for getting into trouble. It says something about their social relationships.
Given that you've shown that games really aren't as damaging as people claim they are, and they may actually have some beneficial roles for young males, what do you think really is the role of video games in society going forward?
Well, it's interesting that they're called games because in many ways they're simulations. They're much more mature than what we think of most games being. I think they're an opportunity for kids and for adults to test new skills, to explore new worlds, to try new environments, to see what they're like in an environment that is not critical of them, where they can make mistakes, recover, and practice for the real world.
Also, the new game systems like the Wii make it easier for parents to get involved. We find that kids really want to play with their parents and they want to teach their parents. That's a great thing for a kid to take the chance to teach instead of always being told what to do.
I could not agree with you guys more. Thank you so much for coming by. This has been a fascinating discussion. I highly recommend everyone out there to read Grand Theft Childhood. It is in stores today. And now we're going to take it back over to Morgan.
As we just heard, video games have stirred up their fair share of controversy. Some possibly legitimate, others not. Right now, we've got a few of the latter for you. Here are the top 4 most ridiculous game controversies. Number 4, Postal 2. What got people up in arms about this game? It wasn't the running with scissors or throwing them at Gary Coleman. It wasn't the cow torture. He's assaulting those poor cows. Elephant torture. It's fine. But when you put a cat on the end of a gun, well then, you've gone too far.
Come on, you're gonna get creamed!
Coming in at number 3, Bully.
You're a joke, you old creep.
Even before the game came out, the pundits were out in full force. It teaches kids to be bullies. Think about the children.
You don't need any more of this, Johnny.
Then the game comes out and it's against bullies and for love. You're so nice to me. You see the dichotomy there?
That's cool.
Number 2 on the list, Resistance: Fall of Man. Not because it's violent. That's fine. But when you have a shootout at the Manchester Cathedral Chorale, then you've got a problem. A church problem. The Church of England demanded the game removed from stores, an apology, and most important, a donation of some kind. And at number 1, Mass Effect.
Just call us humanity's best and brightest.
One dumbass blogger says Mass Effect has hardcore pornography.
Bunk here tonight, Ash, with me.
Oh! That leads to Fox News saying it's got full digital nudity and sex. Oh, the children, the children. One big problem. Nobody played the game because it's just not true. Here's the hardcore scene that's ruining society.
Scandalous. That's a whole new spin for on the floor and give me 20, huh?
Still makes me angry. When Next Play returns, we got a Next Play classic that's been brought back from the dead, and it's about the undead. But first, take a shot at today's trivia question.
What was the first game to cause public outcry over its content? Was it A, Death Race, B, Doom, or C, Mortal Kombat? We'll have the answer after the break. Stay tuned.
Wow, man, it's 4:20 on G4. The party goes down Sunday at 1 and lasts all day long, man. Only on G4.
Show also available as a G4 podcast.
Before the break, we asked you this question. What was the first game to cause public outcry over its content? The answer is A, Death Race. The object of the 1976 game was to run over pedestrian-like gremlins.
Welcome back to X-Play. Now, the next time you decide to shoot a zombie in the head, remember one thing. The people too. This X-Play Classic explains all.
G4 now presents the following public service announcement, paid for by the American Association for the Undead.
Hi, my name is David Nyman, and I work here at Accounts Payable, where I'm a senior associate.
Great work.
I've been dead for 19 or 20 years, maybe 18 years. I was actually trampled at a Wham concert. I've got the album here. Love those guys even after death. After my incident, they let me come back to work, which I was really happy about because it's tough for someone like me to find work. The thing I want people to know is that I'm a regular, normal guy who happens to be dead. I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. Popular misconceptions. Eating brains. Everyone thinks it's all about brains, but it's not just about brains. I like corn. I like smoothies.
It's gonna look really good on you.
Oh, Jesus! Smoothie. I want to be treated with dignity and with respect, just like anybody would. Is there a piece of my face falling off? Gross. Dignity and respect that's what I want.
Zombies. They're people too. Dead people.
Hey, Bob.
Get an unprecedented look at this summer's hottest and most anticipated games with XPlay's Summer Games Preview. We'll show you what games you need to save up for with 5 days of first looks, world premiere hands-on demos, and exclusive interviews. Week-long coverage begins April 28th. Check out g4tv.com/summergames for info and updates.
All right, it's finally been revealed who's the sixth Cylon. It's the XPlay replay. On today's show, we reviewed Arcana Heart. Don't let your first impressions throw you. This is a solid 2D fighter with clever design and some amazingly bad English dialogue. This all-girl fighter kicked its way to a 4 out of 5.
Tomorrow on XPlay, Mr. Sark is ready to unleash his toughest XPlay gamer challenge yet. Do you have what it takes to run Sarkathlon 2? At stake is the biggest prize in XPlay history, an ultra-rare set of Halo 3 Recon armor from Bungie. Plus, we've got an exclusive hands-on demo of Command & Conquer 3 for the Xbox 360, and your all-access pass inside Gearbox for a look at their long-awaited shooter, Brothers in Arms, Hell's Highway. You don't want to miss it.
And that Brothers in Arms game has been in development for a long time.
Yes, but it's going to be a great episode tomorrow, so you should check it out.
So, yes, be here. And up next, be there too.
Yeah.
Because Ninja Warrior's going to be on with the running and the stuff.
See you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.